welcome everybody to our webinar. Thanks for joining. I'm here with, I'm David Fox there at the bottom, and I'm here with Joseph, and you should be able to see us both for a little while on your screen. So here we are. Hi Joseph. Nice to be doing another webinar with you. So today, 5 great new features in P5 with version 8. So we released version 8 of P5, and we've got lots of stuff to tell you about. So let's go headlong into our content. We've got 45 minutes, so we're going to do about half an hour of stuff. And then we're going to do about 10 minutes, 15 minutes of your questions. We normally get quite a well-attended session with lots of questions. So please think about what you're not clear on or what else you'd like to know and type it into the box. While I'm at the top of the webinar, I just wanted to point out that on archiware.com, version 8 is released, so you can go directly to the download page and all the stuff, information about version 8 is there. We'll send you a recording of this webinar plus the slide deck. I just wanted to also point out that we have a really vibrant YouTube channel with lots of content for you in there as well. So if that's not something that you're familiar with, just Google YouTube Archiware and you'll land here on our channel. And there's loads of useful resources here, including a playlist of training videos. There's one more of these that needs to be added, but these are your way into learning about P5. So with the little plug for the YouTube channel over, let's dive into the content. I think at this point, Joseph, if we turn off our cameras so people can concentrate on the slides, and then we'll bring the cameras back at the end. So, I'm just seeing some assuming that everybody can hear us okay, and there's no problems. Okay, so let's go back to the slides, and this is what we're going to be talking about. So we've actually got 5 plus 2. There's too many new things to talk about in version 8. So we said 5 because it's a catchy title, but there might be a couple more that we add in, plus one that's not even on the slide. So yeah, we got 5 main things. So these mainly are revolving around archive. We've got LTO encryption for any tape writing feature within P5. You can now do hardware tape encryption. You can now do selective data deletion within an archive, which has some very specific use cases that we'll talk about. And you can also erase tapes. In P5 Archive, you can now use EDL type files to do restores. In P5 Archive DLM, that's the P5 Archive Data Lifecycle Management, you can now view archive utilization by client or any kind of query that you want to make. And then finally in P5 Sync, we can now sync to and from cloud object stores or buckets. And then we might also look at the parallel preview generation at the end. So let's dive in. Number 1, LTO hardware encryption support. And Joseph, I'm going to do most of the talking here, but if you ever want to introduce more information to what I'm saying, then that's always welcome. So
I will, yeah.
Please do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a first slide, lots of bullets. So basically, LTO drives can do encryption in hardware. They also do compression. So most of the time people are writing to tape, the drive's compressing if it can achieve any compression. It can also do encryption, and it doesn't slow down the data flow. In order to do drive-based encryption, you need to create big 256-bit keys. Once you've created a key, you assign it to a storage pool. So within P5, your tapes are always labeled into pools. So you assign the key to the pool, and then that means that it's available for backup and archive and for LTFS tapes and P5 native format. So it's supported completely across Archiware's tape support. So the new bit in the software is the ability to add and manage keys, which we'll look at in a sec. The reason that we've added this now is that we're hearing from a lot of our customers that this is increasingly becoming a requirement for production of tapes when they're being sent externally in order to protect from unauthorized access. So these keys are very strong, and it means that you can send a tape with a courier to a remote location and know that the contents of that tape can only be read with the key, and then you'll send the key across to that remote location via some other means, whatever you feel comfortable to send the key across. And it doesn't have to be P5 at the other end. So if you're sending an LTFS tape and the software that's reading that tape can support encryption, then you'll be able to read that tape just fine. So these 256-bit keys, they're stored as a text file. Well, you'll see text which looks like this. I just wanted to show you what 256 bits looks like, both in hex and binary. Not quite sure why I wanted to show you that, but you don't want to manage the keys directly inside of P5. So P5 lets you paste a key in that you were already created, or it lets you create a random key if you don't have one and export it. But you want to use some kind of key management software outside of P5, because if your P5 installation disappears for some reason, then the contents of all of the tapes that you encrypted disappears too, unless you have a copy of that key somewhere else. So if the key is lost, all of your encrypted data on the tapes is lost. That's just an important point to make. The encryption is strong. You're not going to get that data back. So let's see what this looks like inside of P5. So here is my P5 version 8. This is the first demo. And I'll point out at the start, actually, that we have updated all of the graphics inside of P5 so that all of the iconography that you'll see inside of the software is all new, and it's all high DPI and is nicer than it was previously for people with modern displays. So I'm here inside of the archive tab, and my key management occurs down under advanced options. Let me just get rid of that. And we have a new thing here at the bottom called LTO Key Manager, where you have a list of your keys. So here's an existing key that I created. And once a key has been created, you can't access that key and get a copy of it. So you must already have a copy of that key before it comes in to P5, or if you created the key in P5, you need to make a copy at the point that you create it. So you can't come in here and get a copy of the key, because if we allowed that, then we'd be allowing people to have the bad kind of workflow that we're trying to avoid. So here's a key that already exists, and if we want to create a new key, we click on New Key, and we give this a name like Webinar Key. I can also add an optional description, and then I can either paste a key into this field, or to generate a key, I can use this button here and it tells me a key's been created. I can see the key and I can copy the key to the clipboard. But once I click to confirm that I've made a separate external copy of this key and I apply it, then the key will not be visible inside of P5 anymore. And it's stored within P5 in a manner that means you won't be able to get at it. And if you're downloading the configuration as a support incident, then the key's not in the regular configuration for P5. It's stored somewhere separately, somewhere securely. So you add as many keys in here as you wish, including keys that you might have been sent because you're importing tapes. And then the next step is that within your pools, where you're managing your tape storage, you can assign keys to pools. So you can see here my archive A has a little lock against it, indicating that that one is encrypted. If I double click on it, you'll see there's a new LTO encryption tab where I can choose which of the keys that I've created is going to be used. And I could come back in here and I could assign a key, the one that I just created, to that pool. And then from that moment onwards, any tapes that are written by that pool will be encrypted. Joseph, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Does a tape that I labeled in a pool without encryption, can that tape receive encrypted data?
No, you cannot. You cannot change for a labeled tape which is already labeled. You cannot change the encryption. So
okay, so once the tape is labeled,
yeah, the encryption is starting from the beginning on. So if the tape is labeled, then you're doing this either with or without.
Okay, so the tape becomes encrypted at the point that you label it into the pool, which is encrypted.
At the beginning.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So it's quite simple. You create the keys, or you import the keys, and you assign them to pools. You label tapes, It can be LTFS or P5 native, and then the data is encrypted. And it's an encryption standard, which is open. It's part of the LTO spec. And so it's not an Archiware style encryption. It's an encryption that is interoperable with other LTO products.
David?
Okay. Yeah.
Did we mention that it's usable for backup and archive? Yeah.
I believe we did, yeah. At the top, I said it's but so it backup and archive, LTFS and P5 native.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing, number 2 on the list is
David.
selected. Yeah.
Did we mention that it's also working for imports?
Not very directly, no. So So if we're importing tapes, then we can import the key by creating a new key, pasting the key in, and then we can assign that to the import pool, right? And then we can import tapes, and they will be decrypted.
Yeah. It is also working automatically. So if you enter a number of keys, and you get from different companies, you get different keys, then you can enter them all in your configuration. And in the way you are importing the tapes, we are recognizing the right keys, and we are using these keys for the tapes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So it's kind of foolproof to some extent.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is selective data deletion, volume reuse. I believe secure arrays is going to come in a version soon, so that's on the slide, but it's not quite in the product yet. So the background for this is sometimes archive data needs to be permanently deleted. A lot of our customers are media and entertainment, putting movie files and projects on LTO on the basis that it's cold storage. It can just stay there indefinitely. The cost of the tape is low. Maybe it gets migrated over the years, but it's a library of resources that makes no sense to remove anything from. But in terms of GDPR compliance, archive of surveillance, CCTV, body cam, law enforcement, etc., these are areas where archive is needed, access to cold storage is needed for cost and longevity. But after 3 years, perhaps, or some number of years, data needs to be permanently deleted. So our new workflow allows deletion from an archive index. On top of that, if you deleted enough data that you've got 5 tapes, which now no longer have anything in the index pointing to the tape, you can then erase and recycle those tape volumes and use them again, destroy them, whatever you want to do with them, so that you've got a fully rounded archive workflow with a possibility to delete. So I'm going to give you a little round trip of what this looks like in the P5 interface. So first of all, obviously you need to have things that you've archived. So I have some archive index data here. There's some folders of CCTV video. There was one here that I already deleted, and if I wanted to delete the second one, I can go via element and delete, and then after a couple more clicks, ensuring that no jobs are running that are also maybe modifying the same index, I can simply remove this entire folder tree from my index. So the delete step is very simple. You just highlight one item in the index, run a delete. This will run as a job in the job monitor because it might take half an hour because there might be 2 million files that are being deleted from the index. So once that's happened, you can go to the volume list here and you can view volumes which were used to store those CCTV movies. And actually, because I've already run this in this environment, you can see that the first 3 tapes here are showing 0 bytes because I removed a folder from my index. But nothing so far has happened to these 3 tapes, although we don't have anything referenced on them. They haven't been touched. Joseph?
The interesting thing to mention is you see the mode there, and the mode is still full. So the tape contains 0 bytes referencing to it, but it's still full. So we cannot write something to it because the tape is still until final blocks full. And that means That means for the user, it's now hard to explain why this tape has 0 bytes on it, which is referenced by the index, and it's still full. And for this, we have now a user interface there.
So the user interface is here under my mouse, recycle archive volumes. And this shows us a window and shows us the state of the tapes that we have highlighted. So we have the first 3 tapes are showing up green here, indicating that they can be recycled because there's 0 bytes in the index, which is referencing them. So I could highlight these, can select these 3 and change the status to recyclable, which would allow P5 to recycle and reuse them, put more data on them. Or alternatively, you could destroy them if that was your preference and you don't want to reuse tapes. So from this interface, you can identify which ones can be recycled, marking them as recycled. Also, I can see that the red ones, 6, 7, 8, 9, are the ones that have data on them. So they are in use. And then 10, 11, 12, you can see from the volume list, those ones are appendable. These are the bottom 3 tapes. They're appendable and they have no data on them. So they are showing up in blue, which means that they're already labeled, could be recycled. There's no data on them. So you could use them in a different pool, but so far there's nothing on them. So 2 steps. You can delete stuff from the archive index. You can then identify which volumes no longer have any data pointing from the index to the tape and recycle the tape. Joseph, how does this work in the case of when the customer's deleting an index and things are on the cloud storage?
In the cloud storage, the reference pointers are direct in the indexes. So the index is entirely responsible for managing the container files which we are storing in cloud. So this is not so complicated than it is on tapes, because on tapes we have these 2 different things. We have one time the storage on one side, which is written and which is not deleted by deleting something in the index. But if we are deleting something in the index which is stored on cloud object stores, then we are also marking this deletion for the cloud. So we send deleting commands to the object store, and this will delete also the content in the cloud.
Perfect. Okay, so it's much simpler for that kind of storage. Simpler, it's more complex with tape. Yeah. Okay, so we're going through our new features at a reasonable pace. The next one we're going to talk about is Project Restore. So some people will understand the concept of an EDL, or an edit decision list. So just to give a bit of context, a lot of our archive customers are archiving media files. The media files are being used in what we might call an edit, where an editing software like Adobe Premiere, Avid, Final Cut, etc., is being used to take media files, media clips, video clips, and arrange them into a project like a TV show or a movie. And a lot of customers will be using proxies. So they will take a lot of high resolution media files coming in from cameras. They will create proxies because they are smaller and easier to work with. And they will archive all of the original assets coming in from the cameras, maybe to LTO tape, maybe using P5. So for workflows like this, and I've got a lot of text on this slide, so I'm going to highlight a little bit. For workflows like this, editing with proxies, once the edit is complete, you can output from the timeline something called an EDL, which is basically a text file containing information about which clips were on the timeline, when they start, when they end. Joseph?
Maybe you show the audience what a timeline is, because this is so complicated for people. They are not dreaming from video production. So
yeah. Okay, I have one here ready.
Okay.
So this is Final Cut Pro, which is the software I use to make videos for Archiware. And this is a timeline along the bottom. So as I'm dragging my mouse around, you can see highlighted in yellow, there are various clips of movie footage. This is all mostly just screen recording that are on my timeline. And basically, on the timeline, you arrange different video clips in a sequence. You don't take the whole clip, you pick bits out and you make your project, your YouTube training video or your TV program by arranging these clips together. And the clips are all ultimately video files that have come from a screen recording or from a camera. And so you can see in the list here the different clips and graphics that appear on my timeline. And if I am making an edit here where I already archived a lot of stuff off the tape, then what I can do in Final Cut, and what I can do in pretty much any software like this, is I can export an XML file. This is my edit decision list from Final Cut. So this is basically a text file that's going to be describing which things I used on my timeline. And what's new in P5, and I'm going to jump straight to the demo here rather than the rather wordy slide, is that if I archived the clips that I used in my timeline, which I did because I've got my Final Cut project that I've archived to tape here, then the new feature is I can go to my Load Media File List button up here with a lovely new icon, and I can take the XML file that I exported from Final Cut. I can drag that in here, and you can see here it says drop files here, and there's a lot of different file types supported, including Open, Timeline, Final Cut, Adobe, the standard EDL, plus we support text files. When I drag my file in, you'll see that each of the resources that I used on my timeline, media files that I used on my timeline, come in here as a list. So we interpret the file. And then on the right-hand side, importantly, you can see each one of those has a green tick, which means that it is in the archive index and available to be restored back to disk. And then for each of these, it's even possible to view multiple versions. If there's more than one version that was archived, by default, we select the newest one. There's a little bit of configuration at the top in terms of how we handle the paths that are coming in from the EDL, because they might be different to what was in the index, and also the way that we match the file name. But ultimately, by dragging in my EDL file, I can then restore 7 files down here at the bottom, and I can restore them back to the original location within my Final Cut project. So this means that broadly, just to go back to the slide, it means that you can edit with proxies and use P5 to restore the high-res files back by the editing software being able to identify through P5 what needs to be restored. And then that means that a customer can use P5 with EDLs, have this proxy editing workflow. Over the months and years, we've had quite a few requests for EDL support. So in version 8, now we have it. One thing just to add is that we are restoring the entire file. So we're not restoring subclips, which means that if I have a 10-minute video clip, but only the first 10 seconds are used in the timeline, then the 10-minute file will come back, and you'll be able to hook the timeline back up to that file. We don't just restore the first 10 seconds because that's a whole different ball game that we won't go into. So yeah, that's our new project restore feature. This is part of the archive index. So anybody that upgrades to version 8, when they're browsing inside their archive, they can hit this load media file button, drag in EDL files, and they will be searched through the index that they're currently in. Anybody with P5 archive, they get this as a new feature when they upgrade to version 8. Okay, so that's that one done. We're doing okay for time, I think. So the next one is archive DLM utilization. Let's just go through what we have about this one. So just to give you background again, P5 Archive DLM, which stands for Data Lifecycle Management, is an add-on for P5 Archive. So for customers that are already using P5 Archive, the DLM allows you to do migration of data between LTO generations and migration between cloud and LTO. It allows you to verify tapes that maybe were written a while ago to check that they're readable. And now this new feature allows analysis of the utilization in your archive based on anything you want to query about the index. So it could be the name of a folder, it could be a file type, it could be any metadata that you have in your index. You can start to count up the total number of terabytes archive that matches a query and then put that in a graph. So previously you could look at pools and see how much space has been used in a given pool to have an idea of how your archive is being utilized. But if you imagine a P5 end user that has a petabyte of archive data on tape, it might be useful for them to know which clients they archived it for, or any kind of analytics about what's in that index. So just as an example, if we imagine a hypothetical archive index where we have 3 TV shows which are being produced and data is being archived to tape about those 3 TV shows, what we'd be able to do is produce a graph that shows storage analysis for those 3 shows. So it can show me up to 4 weeks of data growth around those shows. So I'm getting a data point per day regards how many terabytes are being used for each of those 3 shows, so that I can understand maybe what I need to be charging back to a client, or why my archive is so expensive and I don't know where the data is being used. So I think having insight into your existing P5 archive could be very, very powerful for a lot of people. So this is a new additional feature for the DLM archive add-on. So let's just go in to the demo and understand this a little bit better. So this is configured in the lifecycle management section of the archive tab, where we already have migration verification. Utilization is the new part. So you can see I've set up 3 queries against my index for each of the 3 TV shows. And if I just double click on one of these, you can see that it's based on a query at the top and a schedule at the bottom. So the query runs according to the schedule, e.g. every day, in this case at 10:30, and the query makes a count of all of the matching files, the total size, and then puts a data point in a graph for that day. So you can see how, in this case, how many terabytes the Great British Bake Off is taking. And the index query is done through a separate window where we can have multiple tabs, and our query 0 is showing that the directory path shows the Great British Bake Off. So this is a hypothetical location in my archive index which came from the storage that we were archiving that matches the name of the show. But each one of these queries could be having multiple items in it. So for example, we could also say we're only interested in stuff that was archived after a particular date. Or if there are multiple directory paths, I could add a second query that says also mnt/shows/Great British Bake Off is another directory that footage, media from that TV show is getting placed. So I can have multiple queries within this single query plan, so that I can find all of the different folders folders that contribute towards this client stored. So you set all of that up, and then based on the schedule, it will run each day, and then this becomes visible in our dashboard. So if I go down here, I can choose, in fact, if I just go to the regular index storage analysis, so you can see this pane here in my dashboard is now showing me those 3 shows. But because I've only just set this up for the webinar, there are no data points in here yet. So if we go to our demo mode, then there are some kind of fake data in here, so you can see what it would actually look like. And then we get our graphs with our data points, and then when we hover, we can see both the total size on that date for that query and also the change. So you can see if it's rising quickly, you can see by how much it's risen since the previous day, and then you can show up to 4 weeks of data in these graphs. So you can set this up really flexibly however you want to set it up. to query your archive indexes to see what's going on. And of course, because we're querying an index, a customer that's been archiving for 10 years can come and use this, set up the queries, and then once they've run, they will see that data being displayed immediately based on what's in there, what's currently in their archive index. And if we go back to the configuration for one of these, you can choose with what frequency, but you can also run that right now. So you can set these up and run them immediately and then start to see data points showing up in your graphs. Okay, so anything else to add on that one before we go into point 5, Joseph?
No, I think you mentioned everything. I know, yeah, that's fine.
Good. It's 1:30 now, so I need to speed up a little bit. Right, fifth thing is cloud sync plans. So P5 Synchronize is our product that allows you to replicate files and folders between, currently up to version 8, between storage on-prem. So storage that you have control over, not cloud storage. So cloud storage is what we're adding in with this new feature. Before we sort of discuss where this fits and why people might want to do cloud synchronization when they couldn't before, I'm giving you a refresher. So let's refresh. So P5 Backup and P5 Archive, those products already write to cloud storage, but with specific enhancements, and I'm calling them enhancements. So we have, when you're doing P5 Backup and P5 Archive to cloud buckets, to object stores, we have indexes which track what you're writing, and then we can compare. The next time you want to do the backup, we can compare your file systems with the index to work out what's new, what's changed, and what we need to upload to the cloud. So that's something that P5 Backup and P5 Archive will do. They will have an index to compare your set of files with to see what's new, what's changed. And the second thing is that when you're using P5 Backup and Archive, small files are chunked together into containers. This means that there's not a one-to-one relationship between the files on your storage and what goes into the cloud bucket. There's no parity between the local and the cloud, but we do this for a reason, chunking these files together. Also, we store all of the information that we get from the file system alongside what we're writing to the cloud and in our index. So extended attributes, inodes, modification dates, everything that we can get from the file system, we're storing so that when you're restoring from a backup, you're getting everything back as it was previously. That's not the case with synchronizing directly from storage to the cloud. So there are reasons why P5 Backup and Archive might be the best way to achieve what you want to do. Just to go into that in a little bit more detail, when you're writing your folders to the cloud with P5 Backup and P5 Archive, there's always this index in the middle which is tracking what's happening. And that means that if I have 10 million files that are backed up, that I've written to the cloud, when I do an incremental backup, I can compare 10 million files with my index very quickly without talking to the cloud to identify that there are 100 new files. So that's important. And that is part of what P5 Archive and Backup do. Also, with P5 Backup and Archive, if you have a lot of small files, they are compressed together into a container, and that container is a single upload to the S3 endpoint. So we're removing a lot of the latency, having to make 100,000 small uploads to the cloud by using this container storage. So that means that for backup and archive to cloud, P5 Backup and P5 Archive are maybe what you need to be using. But with that said, with version 8 of P5, you can now write your source folders directly to your S3 object store without any index in between. So this means that the comparison is occurring directly between P5 accessing the source folders and the remote object store, or you're synchronizing from the object store back to your disk storage. So you can go one way or the other way. You can go up to cloud or from cloud back down to the on-prem storage. This is what P5 Cloud Sync plans will allow you to do. And before we look at the use cases, I'll just show you what this looks like in the product. So if we go back to our P5, but this time looking in the Synchronize tab, you'll see there's a couple of new things here. So there's what was previously just called sync plans are now called host sync plans, because these are the traditional synchronization that runs between two hosts on your infrastructure. So from your Synology to your QNAP, or from your Windows file server to your Linux GPFS storage, or whatever you have that you want to replicate files between. And of course, this could run over a VPN between sites to replicate between a central office and small satellite offices and so on. So there's a lot of different workflows that you can already achieve with P5 Synchronize without using cloud storage. But if you want to use cloud storage, we now have this cloud sync plan. And in order to enable the cloud sync plans, you can add your cloud services. So under this section here, you can go and put your credentials for your Wasabi or your Amazon Object Store public cloud storage. And once you've done that, so here, for example, is a Wasabi configuration where we're putting in our credentials and the name of our bucket. Once you've done that, you can create your cloud sync plan. And we have one here, which is synchronizing from a local folder called images, new, on my local host, up to my Wasabi cloud object storage bucket. So you see in here, I can choose both the local a host in my infrastructure or these cloud object stores. And then I simply configure this with a scheduler, just like I would have done previously. So I want to run this every day at 2300 hours, 7 a.m. or whatever. And within the Synchronize, as with the regular host sync plans, I can either do a mirror sync, which will keep the target identical to the source by deleting if necessary, so that the two things stay the same. Or I can do an update to the cloud object store where I'm copying modified files, but I'm importantly not deleting. And then there is the ability to keep previous file versions when doing this. And this will actually uses the object store S3 protocol ability to create file versions. And I'll show you that in a sec. And then the rest of this window is just scheduling when you want it to run, at what intervals, on which days of the week, and so on. So I already replicated this folder here to my Wasabi storage. I've got a tab open in my browser here. This is my Wasabi web admin interface. This is the bucket, P5 Object Sync. So if I go back here, you can see the target of this is my Wasabi Object Sync, which is set up under Cloud Services, and the name of the bucket is defined here, P5 Object Sync. So that's this bucket here. And then in my P5 sync plan config, you can see here that I'm synchronizing to a folder called P5 sync folder within the bucket. So that folder gets created here at the top level. And then within that, I get to see all of the JPEG files that I've copied across as by running this sync a little earlier. And if I look in the biking folder, I just wanted to show you that this bucket has versioning enabled. So if I show versions, and your cloud vendor's buckets will normally allow you to enable versions and then see versions within this interface, you can see here that this file called 010 byte JPEG, there's two versions of it. So this was the first time this file was replicated. And then the second time this file was replicated, it was actually, no, this is looking at the dates. This is the first version of the file at 8:40 p.m. See, I was working late. And this is the second version of the file 3 minutes later. So the bucket, and it's a bigger file. So the bucket, instead of just deleting the file because a new version of the JPEG is arriving and it's a different file, the bucket tracks the previous version. So this is down to the bucket to do this for you. And obviously you'll be charged by the Wasabi or whoever's bucket it is for the additional storage. But you can track those versions in these cloud buckets using a standard part of the S3 protocol, which is supported pretty much across the board when you're creating your bucket. So like when I'm creating my bucket inside of this interface, I can go to the properties of that bucket and set that thing up. Looks like my session timed out, or maybe it didn't. So,
David, but you can also set up this in P5. You can configure the number of versions also in P5.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you're configuring your sync plan here and you're doing your update sync, you say yes, I want previous file versions, and then as before, the number of versions that are kept is configured here. So P5 will delete the oldest version in the bucket in order to honor the number of file versions that we want to keep. Okay. So I'm running a little bit long, so apologies for everybody. I think I covered everything that's on this slide here that I wanted to say, really. The use cases. So really, we think that if you want to do a backup and an archive, you should probably be looking at P5 backup and archive. But if you need to have like a one-to-one relationship between your files and what's showing up in the bucket, that's probably because you want to distribute externally. And maybe as a workflow, maybe you have scripts running against that in the bucket, and there's an ongoing workflow that P5 can push stuff into. So it's those kind of use cases that we see as being where this is needed. Also for compliance, legal hold. There's lots of reasons why you might want to do replication to a bucket like this, but I just wanted to be clear that you need to be sure about why you're doing it in that particular way. So hopefully that additional information is quite useful today. This is the stuff that you've already seen on this slide. Okay, so that's the demo. I think because we're running a little bit long, we will keep these ones back. So we have some we have some interesting stuff around preview generation. And then number 7 was going to be the updated UI, which you've been seeing because I've been showing you the UI the whole time. So yeah, we've got a teaser for you, the chef special, but we're going to talk about that after the question session, right? So let's turn our cameras back on, Joseph, so people can see how nice attractive we are. Yeah. There we go. Okay, you can see me now.
Yeah. So,
can't see you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm here.
There you are. Right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for paying attention. Okay.
Perfect presentation, David.
Oh, thank you, Joseph.
Yeah.
It all worked out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through the questions. I'm going to try and do them in the right order. So is there an order here? Yeah. So Elka asked, is it recording? Yep. The recording is on. Thank you, Elka. Okay, Risto, can you add, so this, just to be clear, I'm going through the questions that you're asking me in your GoToWebinar question box. So keep asking questions and we'll keep answering them until we need to eat. So can you add the key to existing pool, or do I have to create a new pool?
Anytime.
Anytime. So you can add it to an existing.
But you can only add it to volumes they are to be labeled. So volumes they are already labeled, you have to relabel them with the key of your choice. But you can add at any time or remove at any time. Key. Okay. No, I'm not. This is not true. This is not true. We don't allow to remove a key if you have already labeled volumes to a pool, because then you are losing the options to read these tapes again. Mm-hmm. And until the first labeled volumes and you had assigned a key before, then we do not allow to remove the key again.
Okay. So as soon as the pool has encrypted labeled volumes, then you can't remove the encryption. No. That makes sense. Yeah. Risto, thanks for the question. I'm removing the question and reading your follow-up. And will there be then encrypted and unencrypted data in that pool? So yes, there would be unencrypted tapes up to a point, and then there would be encrypted tapes from that point onwards. Yeah. Okay.
But we can handle this, David. We can handle this because we know the information that the volume has an encryption key also at the volume. So if there are 10 volumes they are encrypted and 10 volumes they are not encrypted, this is not a problem because we are using the information already in the volume, and we don't have to go to the pool for reading the data and for writing.
Is the chip in the tape is used to indicate that the tape is encrypted and the name of the key is in there as well, so the tape knows which key name was used. I think so software can say I was encrypted with a key called Dave, and then you could figure out which key that was.
So the customer gets a tape, and then he knows there is a key forced with name blah blah blah, and then he can ask his client or his provider, please give me key name blah blah blah, and then he can send them the key, and then he is entering the key and read the key.
Got it. Another question: do all clients need to be updated with version 8, or can the version 8 server work with lower version clients? I think everything needs to be on version 8.
No.
I think we had quite recently we discovered that was necessary. So,
so far as I know, maybe they change it, but so far as I know, we don't need to update. So version 7 is client still compatible with version 8.
Okay,
that's my knowledge.
We'll go with your knowledge. I'm going to remove that question. Christoph says, if I delete a folder from a P5 archive on LTO tape, can I still restore that folder's data from the LTO tape using the import volume option? So I think if you were to import a tape on a foreign, let's call it P5 system, then yes, we just ingest the contents of the tape and build the index again, which would include whatever you deleted. So the tape doesn't know that you deleted some things on the tape, but you can erase the entire tape when the tape is no longer needed. So
and this is GPR conform. So
so GP. Oh, you've confused me with the acronym.
Yeah, GP blah blah blah.
GP. All I can think of is GPFS. GDPR. Thank you, Elke.
GDPR.
GDPR. GDPR requires that if you've removed the data from the index, then it's considered to be deleted on your system. This is what we found through some partners recently. So that might be interesting. Sebastian says, is P5 version 8 compatible with Iconic as endpoint S3 storage? That's a good question. We did some testing.
The opposite makes sense. Not that we are compatible with them, they have to be compatible with us. This makes sense.
Always that way around. Yeah.
Not opposite.
We did some testing. My understanding is that there was something Iconic needed to change in order for it to work perfectly. Yeah. This is coming up quite a lot at the moment with the Iconic. So Sebastian, maybe send me an email and I can share more information. And I need to find out where we're up to with it as well, because I think there was some things that Iconic needed to tweak in order for it to be fully compatible. Gunter asks, what happened with the file metadata with sync to cloud? Are they lost or saved? So if you've got metadata in your source file, like extended attributes, and you synchronize it with P5 to the cloud bucket, what happens to the extended attributes? Joseph?
We are keeping the extended attributes, but we are not taking care about inode information.
Okay.
So if there are metadata in the cloud on the object, then we are taking this metadata also to the local side and the opposite. So we are keeping X attributes, but not inode information. And
so basically, if the object store can accommodate information from the file system, obviously we don't ever knowingly throw anything away. But there are some things that come just from a file system, which are not compatible with the object store, because an object store and a file system are not the same thing.
Really?
in a lot of different ways, which is beyond the scope of this webinar. But for example, there's no concept of a folder in an object store. There's just the illusion of a folder. But this is a topic for a separate webinar. So Jonathan asks, I hope everybody's asking nice things because I'm just reading them straight off the screen. I take it if a customer wanted to migrate existing LTO archives with encryption, they could possibly use DLM. Is there any migration process for backup, or best to just migrate over time? As with backup, you generally overwrite backups with time anyway. So I think the question is, if you're migrating encrypted LTOs using DLM, then we migrate the blocks, and the encrypted blocks are migrated, and everything is still encrypted on the target, but could be decrypted and restored if the key is present.
So now we are mixing encryption and backup. I don't see a reason for it. So the migration is only working with archive data, not with backup data.
And migration, yes, DLM is only for archiving.
Yeah, and if you have encrypted archive tapes, LTO tapes, and he likes to encrypt it, then he has the target pool has to be an encrypted pool. If he likes to decrypt and he likes to store it without encryption, then the target pool has not a key. So then both things are working. So you can do everything what is possible, because reading and writing has nothing to do with each other.
Okay. Jonathan just follows up. Sorry, I meant historic archives that are not encrypted. Can you migrate them using DLM to new media? So you could migrate to an encrypted pool from a non-encrypted pool, and then P5 will honor that and encrypt on the way in.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I'm removing that question, and that one, and the next one is from Dominique. How does EDL restore behave when the archive clip is a file sequence consisting of individual raw files? So if it's a file sequence with a frame per file that you're using in your timeline,
we are expanding this normally. So if there are rules for this frame-based files. So there are also rules inside of these EDL files which allows us to translate from what frame to what frame we have to search and we have to restore. So frames should also work, but we had not a chance to test all different conditions. So if you test with different data with the EDL restore and you see that something is not working, there is a log inside of P5 which collects all the information we need to understand what you like to do, and this will maybe us enable to reorganize the parsing of the file structure. So if you find problems, please tell us, and we are absolutely motivated to remove all these different problems there. But there are millions of different formats. So
Dominic, whatever you're looking to do, I think maybe you get in touch with us, and we can either run some tests for you. We can talk about the specifics of what you want to achieve, but to make sure that it's possible. It looks like you're in Germany as well, so it would be easy to talk to you. Herman asks, we back up to disk and also to tape. If tape jobs hang up, then also the backup to disk jobs did not work. Is there a solution? It sounds, Herman, like you've got a support question. Something's not working, and how do we make it work? So not a topic for right now. I think if you get in touch with Archiware support or with one of us, we'll make sure that is properly understood and addressed if something doesn't work, because everything should work. Right, I think we're at the end of the questions. other than people saying nice things about what we showed you, which is lovely. Great demo. Is it possible to grab those analytic stats via the API?
No,
Joseph.
no, it's not. It's not implemented.
Not currently implemented.
But we have an export button there, so you can export a ZVS file, and then you can import them in any Excel sheet or any sheet.
Yeah. So the UI, where's the UI gone? Here it is. The dashboard. You've got a download button. Export as a tab separated file there, which will export all the data points that we're showing you. So with that, you maybe can achieve what you're looking to do, Thilo. So thanks for the question. Thanks for all of the love coming in for us. That's much appreciated.
Yeah.
The people love us, Joseph. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I believe it.
You can. Yeah. And finally, the Easter egg. What did we say? The chef special.
Yeah, myself today implemented.
The press. Yeah. So what's this URL here? This is something that was added to the P5, which are basically, this is when you're importing tapes, LTFS tapes that maybe came from other systems. It's now possible to run some special logic on the incoming file names from the tape, and then extract extended attributes, and then rename the files according to the metadata that was used on the tape, rather than the regular file name that was written to the tape. This is we've had a few things, support requests happen where this would be nice to have. So this is in 8.01, I think. There it is.
Yeah, this is in 8.0. We don't like to open it in 8.0 because this is something new, and so therefore we postpone it a little bit. And this is not a big feature. It's just important for people, for reseller that are sitting in front of an installation from a previous LTFS writer software, and they like to import old tapes or previous written tapes, and these previous written tapes do not route the tapes on the LTFS standard way. And we are understanding the LTFS from the structure, but we have to learn, and this is what the customer is configuring here inside of this piece of software. We have to learn which kind of attribute we should use for indexing this tape in our own archive index. So, in example, if this was a software, which wrote on the tapes, and they are using object IDs instead of file names, and they have also the file name inside of this LTFS index, then we are using this small file name value as index name instead of the object ID. So the customer is later on seeing again in this index the file names instead of object IDs, and this would allow the reseller to move from one solution to P5 as a solution.
So that is in 8.01, which is the version which is currently on the download page, right? Because this is the version that I'm
8.01 is in progress. Yeah, it is in progress. Maybe today or tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I downloaded it for my demo. So I think
so you have it already.
Yeah, that's already there. That reminds me, actually, because this page that we were just looking at is part of the your documentation. Just for those people still tuned in and interested, the latest article on the blog is about automating proxy generation for media workflows. So this is something that we had come in from an existing reseller. They were wanting to use P5 to generate proxies, so that at the same time as archiving to LTO and generating media proxies for visible inside of Archiware's archive index, they also wanted to generate proxies that they could use. So there's a whole load of information here. There's basically Josef has put together a Perl Python script. Python or Perl? Python.
Python. So we are compatible with Linux and Windows, so you can use it on both sides. A
cross-platform Python script to achieve this. So if you look at the latest blog post on Archiware's website, at the bottom under the GitHub link, you can access this proxy generator Python tool, which is cross-platform, and there's a lot of instructions in here about how to get it running, and then how to configure it and how to generate proxies with MP5. So yeah, this is something that was created for a couple of customers that they were specifically asking for. So maybe more broadly useful to you guys out there in the world. So okay, so we overran by 15 minutes. That's not good, but I think we had a lot to say. So what can we do? Thanks everybody that's still here. Thanks for all of the our last thing then. Jonathan just asks, yes, you can disable spanning in version 8. It's not something that we included today, but yeah, that's in there. Otherwise, I think it's just people saying nice things. So thanks everybody for coming. We'll wrap up now. We've had enough of your time, I think. So thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you.
We'll see you again in another webinar. Bye for now.